Fear. Everybody in the country is watching the elections that will happen tomorrow. You got big elections in New Jersey and Virginia, the governor's races and attorney general's races, et cetera. But all the attention is focused primarily on New York City. Why? Because the fear that Mamdani and all that he represents will be risen to power, that he'll be elected the mayor of America's largest city, the once cradle of capitalism, that we're going to have a Marxist, a communist running the largest city. Leader Hakeem Jeffries is the Democrat in the House, and Leader Schumer in the Senate. They're both from New York, and they're terrified. You've watched their actions carefully. Many of you have not reported on it enough. Poor Hakeem Jeffries had to ultimately, finally, he was forced to endorse Mamdani. And he's terrified that he now owns the results of that.
Whose characterization is that Democrats are afraid of their vote? That is a ridiculous characterization. When we consistently have been on the right side of the American people on all of the things, on the economy, on health care, on nutritional assistance, on the rule of law, on standing up for law-abiding immigrant communities, on defending our history, on the American way of life, and of course on democracy itself. And we're going to see that tomorrow, that we're on the right side of the American people. That's what this fight has been all about.
That was House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries yesterday, hitting back after Speaker Mike Johnson accused Democrats of prolonging the shutdown because party leaders are afraid of their far-left support.
You know, I think actually people like Mike Johnson should be more afraid of their working class constituents who are going to be struggling because Mike Johnson is not doing enough to make sure that SNAP assistance continues, and because they're cutting their benefits for Medicaid, which I can tell you as a guy that lived in Northwest Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, you cut Medicaid, then the rural hospital crisis, which has been massive, just absolutely massive over the past decade, gets even worse. That's what Mike Johnson should be worried about. He's not. And a lot of Republicans aren't. But that is why you see like MTG and who's the guy from Missouri with the
Josh Hawley? Senator Hawley?
Frail. Yeah. Josh Hawley.
This is really
those
the
guys.
question. Joining us now, managing editor of the New York Times, Carolyn Ryan, and MSNBC contributor, Mike Barnicle. People are going to be feeling the effects of these cuts.
They are.
It's going to be harsh.
We're going to get to SNAP benefits and Medicaid in a second. But we've been waiting for Carolyn to come on the show for a long time. And we're going to talk about the Boston Red Sox first.
What?
So yesterday, Mike Barnicle sends me what may be the best piece of sports journalism I've ever read. I agree. On a deadline. I'm going to give you some quotes, and Mike, you give the backstory to this. Are you ready? Summertime has been called back for just one more day for the 7th game of the World Series. He said of Fred Lynn, a hero of unmatched majesty, and called the game a long night's journey into morning, suspended in time just as Fisk's home run was suspended beyond the skyline. Summertime has been called back for just one day.
Gorgeous.
Peter Gammons writes that
Peter.
The home run sails over the Green Monster at 12:34 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
In the 11th inning. And what does Gammons do?
Gammons just put his head down, wrote like a demon. You could have shot a gun next to him and he wouldn't have interrupted what he was doing. Writes that piece on the front page of the Boston Globe 3.5 hours later. 3.5 hours later, on deadline, writes that piece. And it's a piece of literature. It's not sports writing, it's literature. And it's not the first time Peter did it, but he wrote that under immense pressure, obviously. I am like 2 chairs away from Peter in the press box, and I'm twiddling my thumbs trying to figure out how to write about Pete Rose the next day. And Peter, it's an epic piece. I'll send it to you.
I want to see it. That's poetry.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
And that's what newspapering used to be all about.
Yeah, remember
Well,
those days?
I mean, it's one thing if you're John Updike, extraordinary, talking about the kids' last game, which was just as beautiful as anything we've ever read. But on Deadline.
Yeah, deadline poetry. I mean, that's what we need, more deadline poets. I mean, we look around the newsroom, who can dance on the keyboard?
Yeah.
There are a few people who could still do it, but I got chills just hearing that. That's just.
So we've asked you to come on the show now, I think 478 consecutive days.
477.
And you've said no 477 times, but the 478th time you said you would come on because you feel confident talking about the New York mayor's race.
It's a great race.
What can you tell us about it?
It's fascinating. I mean, the big question, I think, after that primary, which caught a lot of people by surprise, including Mamdani himself. He didn't expect to win. He thought it'd be close. Andrew Cuomo didn't expect to lose, certainly not like that. So the big question was that primary turnout. Would we see a much different turnout in the general? Would people who, the demographics would be different, it wouldn't be as young? So far, we're seeing almost identical turnout. So the young people are coming out. The people in places that really support Mamdani, in Brooklyn, in Queens, Long Island City, Astoria, all these places that are deep Mamdani places, there's a surge of those people.
Big early vote.
Yeah, there's a surge of young people voting. As you know, like usually, if you think about voting, the first day is the oldest day of early voting, and then it gets younger until Election Day. And Election Day tends to be the youngest. Not this time. You have this cohort of young people who are determined to vote.
Wow.
And to me, this reminds me a little bit. I know they're ideologically couldn't be more different, but it reminds me of Trump. Like people who felt unseen, unheard. Mamdani was able to make them feel seen. And what he did, I mean, he's like Trump in that he's a great communicator. He mastered social media. He has one message that he hammers, again and again, just a few issues. And if you touch people like that, if they feel seen, you start igniting something that doesn't just feel like a campaign, it feels a little bit like a movement. And I feel like that's a little bit of what New York is experiencing right now.
Yeah, and for all the concerns for many people about Mamdani, inexperience, his views on capitalism, he's a democratic socialist, his views on Israel, some of the comments he's made, deeply concerning to a lot of people. But as you say, he's used the word affordability in almost every sentence. And that seems to be, for now, we'll see what happens, winning the day, which is, it's way too expensive to live in New York City. In fact, I don't know how I'm going to continue to live here. Interesting development overnight. President Trump endorsing Andrew Cuomo in one of those all-caps Truth Social posts.
It was,
did Cuomo know that was coming? I'm sure he didn't need it on the eve of the election or want it.
It was it was one of the more curious endorsements I've ever, I mean, after covering politics for a long time.
Other than Osama bin Laden endorsing John Kerry on the eve of 2004. It's like, these are the endorsements we do not need.
I mean, look at the registration advantage that you're talking about an 8-1 Democratic city. Trump comes out at the 11th hour, and he doesn't even say, he doesn't praise or highlight any good qualities about Andrew Cuomo. It's like, you might not like Andrew Cuomo, but you must vote for him. You have no choice. I mean, what the hell?
So let's take a moment and talk about Cuomo. The Mamdani rise is so stunning and so historic. We shouldn't lose sight of the fact that Andrew Cuomo is one of the famous last names in American, certainly New York politics. He came into this race, ran a lethargic campaign, almost seemed like it was his birthright to win. Talk us through how he has closed this out, because it's been some pretty dark rhetoric about it's about fear to motivate voters.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, I think you see this a lot in campaigns where they're trying to gain traction. He tries a bunch of different messages, right? And I think he's tried to go after the areas where he expects Mamdani is doing well, like gay voters, and sort of suggesting that he's close to Ugandan officials that, are anti-gay. He's tried to, cleave some of the South Asian and Muslim communities. But it does feel like, there's sometimes, look, we don't want to predict what will happen, and we're talking about maybe 2 million voters turning out in total, which is the most since the 60s, since John Lindsay. Like, there was huge interest. So we don't know who those voters are, but sometimes it seems like a certain number of voters turn their back on you. And if you're talking about the past, you're often losing a campaign. If you're talking about the future, you tend to be winning. And it sometimes feels like Andrew got caught in that and couldn't get out.
What's the explanation, if there is one, for Curtis Sliwa looking to be on the polls for 25% of the vote, quarter of the vote?
The other, it's fascinating. First of all, in the debates, he was entertaining, much as the president can be. He was quick. There's a lot of people who, on the Democratic side, feel stuck. And Sliwa's got, he's got a certain loyal base. He's been around, and he talks like a certain number of New Yorkers who have been around. How many times do you hear people who generally don't drive in New York talk about potholes? He's talking about potholes. There's some kind of staying power. I mean, the real question is today, where does his percentage fall to? Where does it land? Right? And that's something that certainly the Cuomo people are looking at.
Who has been in charge of the Cuomo campaign? Because the spots that they've shown in the last 5 or 6 days prior to the election today have been very effective.
The closing argument has been better. I think they struggled a little bit. They had Melissa DeRosa. They've had sort of some of the people who were with him in the governor's office. I do think that they struggled initially on the social media front. And Mamdani is cinematic. I mean, he knows visual imagery, and his stuff has been of a different level. So the question with Cuomo is the argument that he's making too late.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, Mike. Those closing ads, his closing argument, the last week, been really strong ads in one of the most hapless, listless, directionalist campaigns I think any of us have seen in a very long time. But man, you talk about focusing in on a message the final week. Cuomo has been strong.
Yeah, he seems to have found a message. Yeah, it might be too late.
Might be too late.
Especially given that now we kind of front load elections where, close to half of the people have already voted.
Yeah. A couple things. First of all.
Okay. Don't ruin it, Joe. We want her to come back.
No, I was just going to say, Donald Trump said Curtis Sliwa looks better without his beret. I agree with that.
There's a case
He
for
really
that.
does.
Yeah.
I think Mike should get Curtis's beret and start wearing it. See how that gets. You can talk about how dangerous it is outside here.
Yeah.
Mice running
It would
around.
mess up my hair.
And would not like
hair.
that. Okay.
All right, managing editor of the New York Times, Carolyn Ryan, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming
It's
on
great
the
to
show.
see you.
Have you
Please
here.
come back.
Thank you.
As we mentioned, Zoran
Hold on 1 second. Who do the Red Sox
I
need in the
asked you not to ruin
offseason?
it.
Bregman. Right?
Yeah.
Are we going to keep Bregman?
And he
Odds
says
are
yes.
yes.
We're going to pay him for 5 years?
Maybe extend them for 4.
He's like somebody that played in a church softball league. Like his hammy got blown out running to first base.
The worth of Alex Bregman is in the clubhouse.
Well, then let's get Schwarber.
With the other Schwarber, no. Dave is never going to let Schwarber leave Philadelphia.
They need Bregman, but another righty back.
There you
Bregman
go.
plus.
There you go.
And another starting
They get
pitcher.
the
And a pitcher.
Starting pitcher.
Yes.
They get the polar bear?
I think it's someone like Alonso. I'm not sure Alonso's the right guy for there, but yes, but if not him, someone like him.
Willie, I'm wondering if you were thinking the same thing I was thinking when we were watching the Blue Jays playing the Dodgers. I don't know if you were thinking this about the Yankees, but what I saw watching that incredible Blue Jays team was, man, they were Secretariat. And we were like a pacing horse. Like the Red Sox, and I didn't see this during the season. We did pretty well against them last series of the year. Red Sox, like they weren't anywhere near the Blue Jays in terms of talent, in terms of chemistry. Like this team, we have a long way to go to catch up with Toronto.
The Blue Jays certainly had the Yankees number all season, but remember they were Secretariat all year, and then at the end they started to fade a little bit. The Yankees catch them, actually finished the season tied for first place. So you figure Blue Jays are moving in the wrong direction,
I thought
going
they
into the
were.
playoffs, and then my gosh, did they turn the car around
my
and just
goodness.
look incredible through the playoffs.
Their pitching rotation looked broken by the end of the season, but man, that was as exciting a team as I've seen in the playoffs in a long time. And Mike, you said they did an incredible thing.
They put the ball in play.
They played baseball.
Yeah.
They weren't just trying to hit home runs. They hit
No.
singles. They hit doubles. They did the things right that baseball teams used to do.
Yeah, they played extraordinary baseball.
Yeah.
It's a simple game when you think about it. And they had 2 or 3 guys in the lineup, totally unknowns. You'd never heard of them before you saw the World Series and them playing. But they played every day. They played hard. But the key is they put the ball in play.
All right.